7 hours ago, I started packing. I literally was not considering going.
I'm getting DMs like, lock it in, lock it in.
The next thing I know, they're like, lock in, bro. They were going.
What?
hwikky,
A South Korean
rhythm game streamer turned hololive events vlogger.
In a nutshell, hololive is a idol VTuber agency.
Hololive fans bought him a plane ticket to New York.
Tell hwikky to lock in. We'll sort this out. I'm like, what?
He's a member of KFP.
the passionate fans of Holomyth's
Takanashi Kiara.
But wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute!
Are you KFP because of Kiara? Or are you KFP because of the members? Is it the idol or is it the fan base? How would you explain what you do to other people?
That is something that I ask myself every day, because even my friends asked me that just like 2 days ago. I was like, what are you actually doing? And my simple answer to that is I'm a small YouTuber that's trying to visit offline events for hololive and potentially to other events outside of hololive as I move forward. As I stand, I'm more of a event vlogger for these offline events that goes on for hololive. There are many creators, content creators that focus on what's happening online. And I saw a gap where not many people are doing that for on the ground stuff. So that's where I operate for the time being. Simply put, I'm a offline hololive/live event vlogger. And streamer too, by the way. I do stream.
So with that in mind, especially because we do live in a world where not everyone is as online as we are sometimes, how do you explain to someone what hololive is and the fan culture behind it?
hololive is a leading group/agency/company in the VTuber industry. And I guess we have to kind of touch on what VTuber is, first of all. Many people have different explanations about what a VTuber is and what VTubing is, but I just put it simply as it's streaming and entertainment culture where the streamer or the content creator are using a 2D or 3D avatar. It used to be just that, but we're now expanding and evolving into so many different areas that even if the main concept remains as what I just talked about, the industry itself is so much bigger now. So hololive is a leading figure within that expanding space, and they are also more geared towards the idol aspect of VTubing. So all these streamers, or as we call it, members, are streamers, could be gamers, but they're also performers in idol-like culture. In a nutshell, hololive is a idol VTuber agency, is how I always simply put it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You've done a much better job than me. I'm still trying to figure out how to explain what a VTuber is to people.
And like I said, it's always evolving. So there's never going to be a set answer to that. And everyone will have a different idea on what it is. But that's just what I think as we stand right now.
How did you get into this rabbit hole then?
Simple. I started watching clips and fan animations. This was back in 2021 when we were in the middle of pandemic. And just like everyone else, I was stuck at home without a job. I was struggling to find a job, but obviously no one's hiring. So I'm just stuck at home looking at my PC. And I began to come across these random clips of Japanese anime streamer girls because I didn't know what VTubing was back then. And I specifically remember watching clips of Korone, Inugami Korone, doing a Mario Kart stream and shouting English terms like Mercedes-Benz, and there's a car companies that she was shouting all the English that it's not even English, right? Benz, but she was just shouting all the English words. And those kind of moments started to become viral in the English-speaking community at the time. And there were also few fan animations from Two Snacks. Full name is like Too Many Snacks, I think, putting out also Corona animation. And one of the animation that I first came across was Omaru Poruka's Beef PC animation. And I was so confused because I didn't know anybody in hololive. And when I first came across that animation, I was just so blown away in many ways. But I became very curious because I just had no idea, but it was fun, right? So I naturally started to get warmed up with these hololive clips. But when I really got into it was not until 2022, I believe. Was it 2022? It was 2022. 2022, I was in Korea. Hololive wasn't really noticed in Korea at the time, and internationally, hololive was now beginning to grow with the EN launch and their international direction. One day, I heard that there is going to be a offline hololive event, actually near where I live, and I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. I know what hololive is now. I've been watching quite a bit of clips by that point, and I knew who the members were. And I heard that the event was going on, and supposedly it was the very first hololive event in the country. And I'm like, well, I have this GoPro lying around that's just collecting dust. Never done vlogging, but I had this camera, and I was curious, and I was like, all right, I'll just check it out. So I drove there, got there, and I realized it was so much bigger than what I knew. And it wasn't just me. All the fans that got there for the first time, it was, like I said, it was the very first offline event in the country, right? So we had all these hololive fans that were enjoying hololive in their homes, just alone. So they thought they were just by themselves. But then that was the first day when everyone, including myself, realized, wow, this is actually big. Because like all of a sudden there were like hundreds and hundreds of people just lining up for this thing. So that's when I realized there's something to be told here. There's something to be shown. So I made a simple video out of that day and I uploaded it. And I was a tiny, just starting YouTuber with like, I think 100 subscribers at the time. And I was like, all right, that was my first ever vlog. And then I just forgot about it. A few days later, I get comment notifications saying, our boss watched it, our Tencho watched it. It turns out Kiara watched my first vlog through her members only stream, and all her viewers were flocking over to my video and telling me about it. I'm like, wow. I knew about Kiara before that, and Kiara was actually the reason how I learned about the event. She was one of the few that was actively promoting that there was going to be an event in Korea that's going to happen. I went there because of Kiara. And I guess I stayed in this space because of Kiara, because I think she really got the ball rolling. I'm like, you know what? This is kind of fun. So I guess I just stayed ever since. So that's how I started, because of Kiara and my curiosity.
Would it be correct then to say that Takanashi Kiara is your Oshi, your favorite?
Yeah. And I am giving her extra points for allowing me to get this rolling in the beginning, right? I started looking into her deeply afterwards, and because I got into her membership just to watch her reaction on her members only stream, watching my video. That's how I started her membership, and I stayed ever since. But it gave me an opportunity to look deeper into her, and I learned that she's very passionate and she means a lot when she does everything. So it really inspired and still inspires me when I'm doing my own things. And for those reasons, she is my Oshi. But I think if I compare to other members, I think Kiara is kind of different from the typical Oshi standards. Because like Oshi could be, I mean, we can say Oshi, for many people, and we can try to say like Oshi is this, Oshi is that. But to me, like Oshi is someone that you want to support, right? As an idol or a VTuber. And Kiara is my Oshi in that terms, but I think I respect her a bit more beyond that in terms of like she's the leading figure in the industry. So I have extra respect for her beyond the typical Oshi standards or definition.
On that note, I'm really curious then about KFP, because I've always heard that they're a very, very passionate bunch. Like the sort of understanding I've received from other people is that KFP is, well, as I said, very passionate, probably one of the most dedicated fan bases out there. What's been your experience of KFP?
You're right, they are. It's funny because from my experience, the fandom follows the trait of the VTuber that they're following. And like I said, Kiara is passionate, right? And she's a literal phoenix with like glowing orange as her signature color. And I think the fandom reflects that. People that are like that themselves tend to come together, I think. So whenever you go to these events, you see group of orange, you're like, oh, that's KFP. When you talk to them, it's the same too. They're very passionate about who they're following. But beyond that, it's not just Kiara that they're supporting and after. They're passionate about hololive in general. That's what I was really surprised to learn in the beginning. So KFP, from my experience, is a group of passionate fans that are wholeheartedly supporting Kiara, but also hololive as a whole. I know that all the other fans or other members are like that too, but I think KFP are, should I say, more fiery, passionate, and tend to not hold back, right? I think a contrast would be Takodachis. From my experience, they are wild too, but I think they're more in tune with Ina's personality of like more common, more, should I say, like laid back type of gesture. Like I said, KFP is basically a reflection of Takanashi Kiara in the most positive and best way possible.
I was just going to say, are you sure you want to start a war between KFP and tacos all of a sudden?
Oh, war is always on. What are you talking about? War is always on. We're like, who can shout the loudest? Not that kind of competition, but I think it's a very healthy type of a competition between the fandoms, because obviously they want to show support to who they're supporting, and they want to outdo themselves, right? And I think it's always very fun and amusing to see all these fandoms clash between each other. But at the end of the day, they all shake hands and pat on the shoulders because they're all there for hololive, period, right? So, like I said, the war is always on. Everyone's trying to, one up the other fandom for sure. But if everyone likes hololive at the end of the day, I think that's what matters. And that is how it is on the ground as well.
Speaking of which, then, there is actually a follow-up to this I'd like to ask you about. Are you KFP because of Kiara, or are you KFP because of the members? In other words, is it the idol or is it the fan base?
I started out to be a KFP because of Kiara, but I'm staying as a KFP because of Kiara and the members. So it has developed into that. Because when I started out, I never had a chance to meet any KFP members or fans, right? Because like all of us, we start out alone in our homes, in front of our PC or your phone, just watching the members themselves. Now I've been kind of traveling to different places and met a lot of people, including many KFPs. And yeah, it's safe to say that I am staying thanks to the members' passion.
Have you got any stories to tell about the KFP members you've met?
There are many stories. It's always funny because, like I said, going back to the color orange. Orange is such a good color. And the reason why I mentioned the color orange is that it's always hilarious to spot the blob of orange to any hololive events you go to, right? And at first I'm like, how can they be everywhere I go? I'm like, this is crazy. I know like KFP is all passionate and all, but like there's always an orange hoppy or orange clothing somewhere. I'm like, this is insane. But now I'm like, yeah, there it is. Oh, there it is. Oh, there it is. I'm wearing orange or something like that. So it's just so entertaining whenever I spot like groups of orange. And in terms of like individual like stories, I gotta say, it's funny how they are basically like mirroring the fiery personality of Kiara herself. And it's not like they're even pretending. Like, I don't know how they would be at home, right, just alone. But like at these events, they really outdo themselves and they go over the top in a good way, right? They're not a nuisance to anybody. They are respectful. But when they can, when there's an opportunity, they don't hold back. So that really affected me and inspired me as a person too, not only as a content creator, but as a person too. And I guess it helped me kind of break out of my own shell in that regards too.
Would you say then that through being a member of not only KFP, but the hololive fan community and doing all the adventures that you've been on, I mean, you've been on some really crazy adventures. I mean, the Breaking Dimensions one, that to me was just that was incredible. I just went to myself, this guy has like the gacha luck of the gods, man. Even when he doesn't have a ticket, someone else will get him there somehow. It's incredible. You have quite properly, in my opinion, transformed from what you've sort of described yourself being someone very introverted, very much not a traveling type of person. It sounds to me like you have transformed. But how do you see yourself when it comes to all of that? Do you think you've changed because of them?
Yeah, I think so. I like I said, I was never an event goer. I hardly ever went to any conventions, and I never really traveled. So I was a person that, would just stay home, choose to stay home. But definitely these events really did transform me and made me a bit more comfortable. Having said that, though, it's not like I've been transformed into a completely new person. I still am a type of a guy who needs break in between these massive gatherings because it is energy consuming, right? So I still need time for myself in between and some peace and quiet. But I really do have fun, genuine fun whenever I go to these events. And it's not just about the events, it's about the people that are supporting me in any way, shape, or form. It really allows me to have more genuine fun. You know what I mean? It's not like I have to try to act as a different person whenever I visit, because at the end of the day, we're just all here to have fun under the name of hololive. And I think that aspect is what allowed me to comfortably transform. Well, I guess transform is a strong word. Let's say, it allowed me to begin changing. All right. But yeah, I guess going back to the original question, I wouldn't say transform. I think I'm still largely a similar person, but when I look at the details of like what I feel comfortable and what I don't feel comfortable, yes, I think I've changed and I'm still changing.
With regards then to these moments that you've had with these fans then throughout your adventures, you've had a lot of interactions with them, and in your videos I always see these incredible acts of love and kindness that fans display to fans. Now, in some cases, these fans know you and they want to support you or just want to, I guess, pay back the favor of taking them along for the ride of the journey and perhaps maybe inspiring them to go to these events themselves. So, hey, hwikky, thank you for making your video. You do a lot for the community. Here is a free piece of merchandise that I'm giving to you because I want to give it to you. Now, there are cases like that, but then there are other moments where some of these fans, they don't know who you are, or at least not that familiar with what it is that you do. And yet they still display that same tendency of wanting to just give things to other fans, to gift things to other fans. This is really quite interesting to me. And perhaps the first question to maybe just get out of the way first is, how much free stuff have you actually received from these other fans?
Quite a lot, actually. And I guess I could call it generosity, right? Really, from the fans. And of course, me being present online would allow myself to get more stuff. That's just how it is, right? But what I've also found was, even before I have been doing this for, 2 years now, a little over 2 years, even in the beginning, I saw fans exchanging stuff, right? So it's not like this is a rare occurrence. All these events you go to, it's very, very easy to spot people exchanging things and giving away things just because they want to. And I've also been carrying around my separate bag of goodies. Whenever people give me stuff, I try to give back every time I can. I always do my best to make it into an exchange rather than just a one-way deal, because I learned that from other fans on the ground. And I think the reasoning behind why they do this is probably because it's more straightforward to show their passion and their gratitude through a form of a merch, rather than trying to tell everybody with their words every time that they meet somebody. These merch things, it means a lot, right, to a lot of people. And just by handing over a simple piece of merch could say more words than actually speaking words. And that's how interactions start. So I think even though I've gotten quite a few merch at this point from many people, it's definitely not unique to my case. It is very easy to spot across the whole fandom. And I also love to jump in on that and give people things myself too.
What are some of the most wholesome stories then you have to tell about these interactions, whether it be fans exchanging gifts or just general things where you go like, you know what, this is just one of those moments that makes me go, this community is awesome?
It's whenever I see fans from different countries interact, I think that's very interesting, because oftentimes there are language barriers, right? For instance, if there is an event happening in Japan, it's likely to spot an international fan that's not fluent in Japanese. But that doesn't really matter, because as long as you're, I guess, brave enough to kind of approach the other people, and you start just, giving things and just exchanging things, they instantly, I see it happen right in front of my eyes. Instantly, the guards are down and they just laugh about it, right? And even if they can't really understand what each other is saying, they understand one thing. We're all here because we like hololive. And that's enough, to be honest. We're not really there to have a deep philosophical conversation. We're there for pure entertainment and fun. So the most wholesome moments that I spot are those kind of times when people from different countries with language barrier are still having fun, exchanging merch, showing their proudest Ita bags or their collections, and just laughing about it, talking about it in broken languages even, and just smiling at the end of the day. So I think that's, as a person traveling to many different countries and places, that's what's the most wholesome to me.
Speaking of which then, in that case, since you've seen all these different types of fans, language barriers and all, how would you describe the average hololive fan? Like, what would you just say about their personalities, the kind of people who are into hololive itself?
It's impossible to describe in one way, because it's a collection of so many different personalities, and I dare not categorize any of them under a single word or phrase. It's just like any society or any communities, or let's say you go to a flea market, right? There are so many different people that show up there. You can't categorize everyone just because they're at the same flea market, right? Shopping. And I think it's the same for hololive too. One thing I can say is that we're all here for hololive, but everyone enjoys hololive in many different ways, and everyone has different opinions about hololive in many different ways. And there's no way I can say hololive fans are like this, and that's that. It's not like that at all, in my opinion. Now, of course, I can talk about my personal interactions, but that's only a very small sample, right? That doesn't represent anything. If we look at the whole scale of the hololive fandom, I don't even know how big it really is in numbers, right? But it's massive. So yeah, all I can say is from my experience, they're all there to support the members in hololive and have fun with it. That's all I can say.
In that case, then, let's look at it in a different way then. When it comes to hololive, what do you think makes hololive?
That's also a hard question. And I think even hololive itself is probably asking that question to itself every day. To me, as an individual consumer, right, of hololive, because even though I'm a content creator, I'm also a fan, right, that actively consumes their content. I think hololive is hololive because first, the sheer scale, I think, is definitely notable of the amount of members and the number of branches. and the places where they operate with these events. So it's definitely a big scale operation. And that's not something the rest of the industry can easily replicate, right? So I think that's something notable right from the beginning. But if we look at the members and how they do things, I think it's interesting because I'm not saying it's not like this for other agencies, but as a person who mainly consumes hololive, what's strong about hololive is that all these members are constantly supporting each other, right? So it's not just an individual effort, like I'm here and it's just me. And again, like I said, other agencies are doing this too. They're supporting other members and each other. But I think hololive, because of its scale, they have a bigger pool to do that, right? So when one member is having issues or trouble, there are other members who can support that emotionally or technically, like technology-wise or in any way we can imagine. And I think that's probably one of the recipes that allows them to go in the long run. As a person that's barely making it into trying to create these videos, before I started doing YouTube myself, I really underestimated what it takes to do streaming or making videos, right? So when I saw people at hololive or any other VTuber agencies, I think, oh, that's cool. And like, oh, that's a pretty big number. Oh, yeah. But then now I realize it's such a difficult thing to survive on your own. And you may share the same thought maybe, but that's why I became to realize, wow, it's so important for all these members in hololive to have somewhat of a like comrades, right? That are fighting, together, right? On their sides. So I think that's what makes hololive, combined with its scale, very unique and different. And that also goes to the fans too. Again, let me emphasize this again. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to other agencies. Other agencies definitely, work with other members, and they also have these camaraderie for sure. But again, combined with the scale, I think hololive is unique. Its characteristics is interesting. But the same thing is also visible for the fandom too. Like I said, the different fandoms like KFP or Takodachi or Saplings, whatever you name it, can have competition between each other. But at the end of the day, they're all there because of hololive. And even if their Oshi is not at an event, they still show up. Like, that's the most amusing part, in my opinion, is that fans are willing to support hololive as a whole, even if it's not specifically their Oshi. All these members supporting each other and all the fans also supporting each other, in my opinion, is creating a very wholesome experience that's also allowing them to move forward another day. Right. Does that answer the question? I feel like I kind of got in maybe too deep, but yeah, I think that's what I have to say about hololive.
I mean, to be honest, I think it's one of these questions that's almost an impossible one to quantify, because as you say, hololive itself is, well, it's always changing, it's always evolving. And I mean, look at, say, the recent thing with, as of recording, this is the last week of the activities of Amelia Watson, who, as some people said in comments, has literally just said, like, say, Ame is leaving in the most Ame way possible, inventing a new way to graduate.
Yeah. Oh, man, Ame. I had a stream recently on my channel talking about that. We're all trying to figure out what's happening. And you're right, the conclusion was it's the most Ame way possible. If she's doing it, she's doing it differently. But I think that's a further proof, in my opinion, of what I mentioned about hololive, is that a member, if they are leaving for something else, or if they have to make a significant move like that, you would want other members to really listen to that and give feedback or support them, right? And I think the reason why Ame can do this, in my opinion, again, this is all just me, right? In my opinion, is that she's got support from other members and probably also the company, because she can't make these decisions alone, right? To make a new direction like this. So I feel like this is where the whole thing coming together to allow her to do that. And And also because she's brave. It's very, very brave of her to do something like this.
I would have just said, it's just Ame being Ame. It's like, of course she would find some crazy way to basically do it. Oh, it's really mind-blowing to me just to think about that whole thing. Here's an even frightening question to think about, which is when it comes to VTubing in general, who would possibly not necessarily replace Amelia Watson in terms of the personality behind the avatar, but rather who would replace Amelia Watson in terms of being one of the innovators within the VTubing space?
I mean, that's a question no one can answer. And I don't think we really don't even have to ask that, to be honest, because Amelia Watson is Amelia Watson. And I don't think anyone should try to replicate that. The beauty of, again, the amazing thing about hololive and all the members with its scale is that we have so many different personalities coming together, right? And they're unique in their own ways in terms of their personality, characteristics, and skill set. And that's what's amusing about hololive, is that you have such a wide spectrum of talented people. And because we have Amelia Watson's space now void for the time being, she says she's going to come back for future events and things. But that, I don't think we should try to find one-to-one replacement. I don't think that's even worth it, to be honest, because first of all, that's impossible. And second of all, it's best to welcome new sets of personalities and new skill set rather than trying to fill that void like the same Lego piece. So I think a better question to ask is, who do we have to look forward to going forward? I know they're not going to debut any new members anytime soon, but when we have new people, and it's not really just about having new people, but even existing members, right? They can develop new skill set. They can develop new characteristics, right? They always do. So even with existing members, I think the better thing to look forward to is to say, hey, I'm really interested and very excited about the potential development of the new direction with the existing members and potentially newcomers, and just support Ame and doing the Ame way, right? I think that's the way I should look at it, at least.
Well said indeed. It's been a crazy time in VTubing this year, I think, in general.
Yeah, I mean, even though I don't know the whole VTuber industry, there's always something that's happening, right? But yeah, it's and I think that's another proof that this industry is growing, and I think it's better than just things dying flat out, right? Even though it can look chaotic, on the bright side, it's also an evidence that this whole VTubing thing is definitely growing and is here to stay for the time being.
Speaking of that sense of growth and expansion, especially into the mainstream, you were fortunate enough to go to hololive Dodgers, the baseball collaboration event with hololive. And in that event, it wasn't just, say, hololive fans, although they definitely did come out in force, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
But there were also a lot of, dare I say, normies at the event as well. In any interactions you had off camera and on camera, how did these people think about hololive? What did they even think about the whole thing?
Majorly confused and curious. And from what I heard, I think many people thought it was like mainly a kids thing because it was just, these cartoon girls that are appearing and singing, right? And, it's rightfully so. I mean, if I didn't know about hololive, I would have thought the same thing. I was like, oh, that's the kids stuff. Oh, amusing. But there were quite a bit of cases, like more than I expected, where some people were genuinely curious and asked me, like, what's going on here? And like, why are these so many people lining up for this t-shirt? And they were like asking like legit questions about what this is. And of course, whatever answer I give them, there's no way for me to have them understand on the spot, right? Because I have to go like, okay, so VTubing is basically repeating this whole podcast in front of them. And that's impossible. But I say, oh yeah, there's something called hololive, and and we have these like streamers that we like, and that's why we're here. And I think that's the start of a potential climb into the rabbit hole moment, right? If that said person get to know about hololive because of this, I mean, that by itself is a huge win. But going back to the question of like how were people reacting, genuinely just just normal. Like honestly, like there was no drama. There was no like, what is this? Like get this off the screen or like or whatever. There was no one like that, at least from what I've seen on the ground. And they were like, oh yeah, it's fun. Like that. They were just all there to enjoy the moment. So like that was it. It was fun looking girls and cool songs and hey, awesome drone show. I think that was the general vibe, with some people very curious.
When it comes to being a hololive content creator, I think to myself that there must be something to why you would want to make the content that you make, because it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort. I mean, as you found through actually doing content, it is a lot of work. I mean, goodness me, even if I was to just edit this conversation we're having, that's still a lot of hours to sink in. And not only that, but on top of that, there's also a lot of actual physical effort and money involved of actually trying to make these videos happen. I don't even want to know what your credit card statements look like when it comes to plane tickets and stuff like that to actually go to all these events. Yeah.
No, but it's done. And the credit card is done.
Oh God. So you go for a lot to basically make this happen. And there's a part of me that kind of wants to know almost why you'd want to do this. Like why the hell am I doing this? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think that's a very valid question. And to be honest, it's a question that I ask myself every day because of the sheer amount of work that goes into it and money. And to be honest, if I knew what it takes to do this before I started out, I would have not done it. Really? 100%. I mean, I would have stayed as a hololive fan, just as is. But becoming a content creator like this, yeah, no way. The only reason why I started is because I didn't know any better. That's it. I thought, it's going to be fun. And I really did enjoy myself in doing it. So that's basically it. Now I know a little bit more about what it takes to make these things happen. And like I said, there's just so many things involved, especially as a person that's doing it alone. You have to, it's just what's shown on the video is not everything, right? That's like 1/4 of it. Planning goes into it. You have to schedule things. You have to make reservations, pay for things. You travel there. You take videos, but in order to take videos, you have to invest in hardware with the cameras and microphones, and things break. And then once you're done with the event, oh shoot, I forgot to take this, or maybe the place closed for today, so I have to come back tomorrow and do it all over again. And then once I'm done, I have to go back home. There's no time for touring around a different country. And I have to start making videos. And my butt hurts because I've been sitting down on this wooden chair in McDonald's for too long editing my video. And then I have to finish this video, upload it, and then start all over again, right? And I still do it because I enjoy it, but it is painstaking for sure. So again, this question I've been asking myself, because at the end of the day, I have to answer this, right? I can't fool myself forever because I need answers too. And I have to tell you, I still don't know 100% why I'm still doing this, but I do have partial answers, maybe. One is that I like it. I like hololive, and I love the chemistry and what happens online with the members and offline with the fans with these events. And I'm always inspired to see how so many people put their efforts in to make these events happen, both on the company side and also fan side. And simply put, it's entertaining, right? So I just like to be there. Another part of the answer is that it's one of the few things in my life where it clicked right from the beginning. What I mean by is that I was a person, I think I still am a person that gets into something, and I really have a narrow vision in terms of trying to do something. And I am pretty decent at focusing on what I have on hand, but nothing really clicked in my life, as in like I understood right from the beginning. Whether it be using a software, whether it be trying to practice a skill set, whether it be my brain
understanding what I'm actually trying to do, those kind of things. But video editing and making videos and streaming, I think those things were just something that, I don't know, I understood a little bit without prior knowledge. When I say understand, I don't mean that I'm suddenly a pro. What I mean is that I kind of have a general picture of where I want to go with it, right? Because let's say a thing called singing or drawing, right? Different skill set, or playing an instrument. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, what do I do with these? I mean, drawing, it's fun, and I used to do like drawing things as well, but it never really clicked. I never really got too good at it. Instruments, what am I doing with this? I don't know how to do it. I don't know what I want to do with this. But content creation with video and streaming, it's just instantly, I was like, okay, I can vibe with this. That's why I decided to run with it. And combined with hololive, which is also something I like, clicking together even further, I was like, okay, I see myself doing this for some time. So let's test it. And again, back then I didn't know any better. That's the end of my thought process. Hey, I like hololive, and this video and streaming thing clicks with me. Together, even better. Let's do it. That's it. But I think going forward though, why am I going to continue to do this? I think I'll still try to look for a more solid answer than what I provided today. Maybe in the future we can do another one, and I might have a better answer to this. But I think I want to see how far I can go with this since I started. And even after these like few years since I started, I still have fun with the whole life stuff. And I still enjoy going and visiting these different places. And even though it's still painful, I still do enjoy making videos and doing streaming. So I never really had anything in my life where I saw an end to what I set out to do. It was always like, yeah, I am trying, but it kind of fades away without a solid result, right? So I've never had a point in my life where I've did everything I can. I put everything I can to this, and I failed or I succeeded, and I'm happy with what I got. I've never had that moment in my life. So I think this is a legit opportunity, first in life opportunity with content creation and this whole life journey where I can confidently say, you know what? It is something where I can really get myself invested in and try to see the end of where I'm going, even if I fail. I guess that's why I'm continuing for the time being. Money is hard though. and physically, it's also very demanding. I also didn't really realize how hard it is on like the physical. I feel like I have to like really work out to be fit for this, for traveling and also sitting down on hours end. I mean, you know this too, right? So it's very demanding, right? It's very demanding. So I started kind of working out a little bit thanks to this. Fun enough to edit videos more. I'm working out. I've never worked out in my life, and I'm challenging all these things and trying all these new things in my life because of hololive and because of this content creation that I'm trying to challenge myself with. So yeah, it's very interesting, and it'll be, maybe I might not have a solid answer ever with the question that you asked, like why am I doing this? But I'm happy to try it. I'm happy to try it. Let's just put it that way.
Slowly but surely, you're just going to get more jacked as time goes on.
Like the video editing muscles, I'm like just gaining like all these like freaking 6-packs. Yeah, it's for Adobe Premiere, you know.
This KFP's gotten very buff.
Oh my god, that would be funny. Oh no.
I guess, as you say, it's very hard in that case just to do what you do. What are some of the hardest things you've personally been through and the not so great moments you've experienced, and what are the things we don't see on camera?
Money is always the issue. I'm going to say it outright. Money is the issue. Like, being passionate about a thing is one thing, right? But I've came to realize that passion doesn't pay bills. It's just a brutal truth, I guess. It's the same thing with everything in life. You just need money to operate. And even though I would love to be an oil prince, right? I would love to be a jacked up oil prince that can pay for everything and not complain about anything on what I do. The truth is that it's very challenging financially as an individual, right? So I'm a person who quit a full-time job to do this. And in order to secure this content creation thing as a long-term thing, at least for what I have to do with like all the traveling and having to be flexible, a full-time job wasn't working out, basically, right? So what I do, I still have to support myself somehow. So I do freelance stuff, but maybe I suck, that's why. But it pays less than a full-time job because you put less time into a said job, because basically my real full-time job is doing this content creation thing. So then like I have to make a choice. Do I slash the content creation time to earn more money, or do I earn less but put more time in content creation, but then do I give up on like traveling? I think it's so many like hard choices that we have to deal with for this. And yeah, the financial is definitely an issue. And that's why I'm super, super grateful for all the viewers and all the supporters that are watching me. Like, I still find it unbelievable how people are willing to like support me out of all the people that they can support, that they're willing to put their precious time and money into help me what I do. So I find it fascinating, and I'm genuinely thankful for all the supporters. Because if it wasn't for them, and also the recent Breaking Dimensions example is also a good one, right? For so many fans just coming together and say, you know what, go man, just go. I'm like, damn, like that's. I mean, I would have never imagined something like that to happen in my life, right?
Tell that story in more detail. Like what's the full story of Breaking Dimensions? How did you actually get there?
First of all, if you're watching this, watch my video. Watch the Breaking Dimensions video and subscribe too. But that video basically says it all. I've explained everything in there. But basically, I was having a last moment second thought, right? I was confident that I was okay with not going to New York and Breaking Dimensions. That's what I was telling myself, right? Because like I said, you have to make these choices when you're financially limited. And the big choice that I was making at the time was, is it LA with Dodgers or is it New York with Breaking Dimensions, right? And if you're a hololive fan, you might say, oh, easy answer, New York with Breaking Dimensions. Why are you even thinking about this? And the reason why I was thinking between the two is I am a hololive fan, but I'm also a content creator that has to make good videos, right? And I thought in terms of content to show for a broader audience, I thought Dodgers made more sense. And also, I'm financially limited, so I had to choose either or. So at the time, I'm like, okay, you know what? It's painful, but I'll go to LA, but New York, I have to give up. So that's where I was, okay? But when an event becomes more talked about in the community as it nears, people get excited and you see their reactions and they're like, hey, I'm in New York, and I'm posting pictures on Twitter. And I'm sitting here at my home, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad you're having fun. Woo. Have fun for my sake. Oh, man, but it's painful. No, but I told myself, I literally don't have any money. Nothing. I've spent everything to LA. And you told yourself you're going to give up on New York, right? So let's just don't think about it and just focus on whatever comes next. So I'm just like doing this till the very day or the day before of Breaking Dimensions. And I was like, I don't know why, but I told myself, okay, it's not worth it, but let's just see how much it is right now, the plane ticket. Just let's see if there are tickets left for Breaking Dimensions. Just one can imagine, right? One can explore and just say, yeah, that's how much it is. If I went to, this is how much I would have paid. Fun. So I was like looking into it, and I put out, I think on my Discord and Twitter too, probably, saying, hey, I'm kind of looking for like Breaking Dimensions ticket, just looking around, and I kind of put that out there. And apparently someone in the community saw that. And Linkat, the Viking, the Kenzoku, the Toa fan that was caught on video in Fourth Fest, that became very popular, is very active in the community. And that's how Linkat also heard that hwikky was potentially looking to go to New York. So Linkat DM'd me and saying, hey, I heard that you're looking to go to New York. And I'm like, oh shoot, how did you hear about this? Because I wasn't really planning, right? I mean, already I thought it was too late. There was no way I was going, no way. It was just me, stupid me, just having regrets and just trying to do this out of my own personal pity. But then people were actually hearing about this. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, he knows. Yeah, I'm just looking into it because I was kind of busy up until this point, which I was, by the way. And now I was like, just trying to see if there's any way. And we were kind of going back and forth about this. At that time, it was, what was it, like 5 a.m. in the morning in Korea. If we had to leave, I would have had to like leave like that day to make it before Breaking Dimensions start. So it was already too late. I'm like, yeah, 5 a.m. hits. I'm like, you know what? I'm too tired. And I was looking at my credit card and it was looking back at me too. I'm like, no, I'm a responsible human being. I promise not to do this anymore. I put it away. I told Linkat, you know what? Yeah, I can't go, man. I tried looking into it, but yeah.
Credit card couldn't says that. No.
Yeah. It was like, no. No. And I was like, you're right. No. And Linkat was like, okay, like, what's the reason? What's the reason? You started asking the question. And I'm like, yeah, it's just the financials. I don't have the money for the ticket. Because I needed like over $1,000 because I'm setting off from Korea, right, to New York. And it was last moment thing too. And I started asking, like, how much is it? That's a detailed question. It's a little over $1,000. It's like, I'm going to call you. And I'm like, okay. So we got on a Discord call. And it was like, we have several people here right now that's looking into it. I was so confused. I was like, what is he talking about? And then suddenly I was getting DMs from other people saying like, lock it in. I'm like, what do you mean lock in? And it turns out that dozens of these people, if you watch my video, it's actually dozens of people. It's not just like 2 or 3 rich guys, like dozens of people that came together last moment to put together money for my plane ticket. And they were just like, all right. Just tell hwikky to lock in. We'll sort this out. And Linkat's like, all right, just pay. I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going. So this was like a little over 6 a.m. at this point, 6 in the morning. And I didn't get any sleep. So I'm like, I buy the plane ticket. Then I was like, oh crap, how am I actually going to get to this place? First of all, I lived very far from an international airport that I had to get to. So it was like 2-3 hours by high-speed train from where I live.
Oh my God.
So I had to like leave now. The plane was not that far away, right? And it was also a layover, not a direct flight plane. So there was a considerable amount that I had to take care of with traveling. So I was like, okay, I gotta pack now. So I started throwing stuff in my luggage, like 100 underwears or something. I was like, just close it off. And then I was looking up on my phone for the train ticket, and there were thankfully 2 seats left. And I'm like, oh my God, lock that in too. Got the train. I packed, and I was just trying to figure so many things out at the last moment. But still at the time, I didn't have, you know how Breaking Dimensions was day 1 and day 2, right? Link had graciously provided the day 2 one, but I really wanted to go to the day 1 one as well, because for my video's sake, I wanted to capture the first day action. on the spot, right? So that was very important for me. But I just couldn't get a day one from anyone because it was just completely sold out. Then I remembered, oh yeah, the King's Theater, they're going to do a last minute leftover ticket release. When was that? I looked into it, like 7 a.m. in Korea. I was like, oh, 7 a.m. Oh shoot, it's 7:30 a.m. It's already 30 minutes past. So I was too late. Oh crap, okay. Well, let's at least log in and see, just in case. And obviously there's nothing, right? Not even a single seat left. I refreshed, nothing. Refreshed the webpage again, nothing. I did that a couple dozen times. Refreshed. There's a dot.
What?
On a seat. There's a dot. I'm like, oh, wait, a dot. Click it. I don't know what it is, but click it and buy it. I don't know how much it is. And it turns out it was a mid-section front, like, you know, the very good seat, right?
No.
Like middle front good seat. That just suddenly popped up. And I clicked and my payment went through at that last moment. So it's not day one ticket. I didn't even like get it from somebody. I legit just bought it through King's Theater on on that day. It was absolutely insane. So I was like, okay, this is a sign. This is a sign telling me to go to New York, like right now. So I got everything. I just left, got on a train, got to the airport, and you know, the rest is the video. It took a long time to get to New York from my home. After setting off from home, it took a total of 31 hours to arrive at Newark Airport, with flights being canceled, you know, with the layover flight. And but the thing is, I got there, right? And it's all thanks to just these random people, random fans just coming together and say, you know what, he's got to go. And the one of DM that suddenly came to me was like, you're going. Like, you're coming. Like, that's what it said. I'm like, all right, I guess I am. It's not like I knew these people from before. Like, most of the fans that I met through this occasion, I was meeting for the first time ever, right? So it's not like we were on first name basis. It was just completely new people that were willing to do this. Hey, that guy makes fun videos, right? So I'm like that's just it's a story that I will not forget ever. And it's something that I feel very, very grateful and fortunate about. So I would like to say thank you again. I call it like lock-in Avengers, right? With the link cat and all. It's kind of cringy, I know, but you know, it means a lot to me, right? So I would like to say thank you again to everyone that's been involved for making that possible. Yeah. So I think that's a good lead way into emphasizing that even though this is still me trying to do things alone with content creation, at the end of the day, it's not, right? You're always bumping into so many different personalities, and you have to interact with so many different people. And it's with these support, not just monetary, but also with time and just pure kindness, that all come together to make my streams and videos possible. So even though I start things out alone, at the end of the day, it's a collective effort for sure. I mean, of course, I own the video. Let's get that straight. But you know, I think it's breaking dimensions, and even Dodgers too. Like all the videos, it would have been impossible if you know, people weren't as supportive as how they are right now, for sure. So yeah.
Again, man, you are like living proof of God in anime, quite literally. It's like the gacha luck you have. It's just insane, man.
That was insane. That actually was insane, for sure.
I mean, the moment you said that, you know, Link Cat said, I'm going to call you, you know something's going on when that happens.
Well, yeah, I mean, but I didn't really think about it that much because I was so tired, because I was stressing myself into a pulp thinking about going to New York, right? Which was not going to happen anyways, and I knew that. So I was emotionally drained at that moment. So when he said, I'm going to call you, I'm like, oh, okay, we'll have a call, just say hi. But then I didn't expect to see myself packing to go to New York within an hour. 30 minutes. So yeah.
There's something interesting about the fans that I see in your videos, which is, as you say, like you can spot a KFP member from the distance because of the bright orange. And likewise, you can spot any other fan of any other Oshi within hololive purely through just the bright colors that they wear. They're very standout in that sense. I mean, the recent video of Breaking Dimensions that you released where you're getting off the party bus. I mean, my God, you guys know how to party, man. I went to myself, what is this? This is crazy.
That was insane. Yeah.
That was insane. Like, super props to whoever did that. You guys know how to have fun. Honestly, that's awesome, man. But just seeing everyone get off the bus, you're all very flamboyant individuals, very, should we say, loud and proud to be proud and supportive and passionate fans of your idol and of the hololive company itself. There's this part of me that wonders, okay, sure, you've got people who are, say, quote unquote, broke gang. They can't go to these events, unfortunately. And, one day they will come, but it's probably not going to be now for at least for now anyway. But, aside from people being broke, I could imagine that maybe for some people, it's not that they're broke. It's just that there's a hesitation or an anxiety or this feeling of they're afraid of going. So, for example, I could imagine there's some alternate timeline for you that, let's just say, where you didn't end up doing the hololive stuff you do. You didn't end up going to New York in the crazy way that you've been to, where I'm guessing a stay-at-home guy like me, I guess, in some ways.
Yeah, silent enjoyer is what I was, I guess, yeah.
That's an excellent way of describing it, actually. Silent enjoyer. So for these silent enjoyers, there's probably some fans out there who they want to go to these events, but for whatever reason, they just can't bring themselves to do it. And it's not usually financial. It's not usually some kind of logistical thing. It's more of a deeply felt emotional thing. Fear. A lot of fear of rejection, fear of how people might see them, fear of just maybe the worst possible outcomes happening to them. So let's just say when they go there, all of a sudden a piano falls from the sky and they get severely traumatized from that, or maybe not alive anymore because of a piano falling from the sky. We're talking essentially there is something that's emotionally driving them to basically say no to the open invitation to be a part of the hololive fan community in IRL. What do you think of all of this?
So if to answer what I think of it, I think we can go back to that question of how do I define hololive fans? And my answer was you can't, right? Because everyone's different and they come in all different personalities. I'm going to repeat that because you don't fit a certain person expecting them to fit into an existing community. You just don't do that. You just can't do that. I believe a person can enjoy a certain thing, in this case, hololive, in whatever way they want to. Now, if the worry is that potentially they might not be welcomed, or something more emotionally traumatizing can happen when they do decide to go to these events, my personal opinion is that there's really no need to worry, because no one's going to judge you for enjoying silently, right? First of all, I think I'm a person who's been a silent enjoyer that has kind of developed into a louder enjoyer. So speaking of both sides from my experiences, you can totally enjoy an offline event without being loud. Party Bus was just one example of enjoying offline hololive event. But in that video, if you watch it, how I transitioned from the bus party into the park gathering, right? It's funny. It's a funny scene, but I also did that to show that people enjoy the same event in vastly different ways with largely different approach. You can be a peaceful gatherer at a park that talks quietly about what you enjoy, or you can just drink and just crazy party on a moving bus. But they're both right. Nothing's wrong. So I think you should look at that scene and tell yourself that I can be either or you don't even have to necessarily force yourself to be involved in a gathering. At first, when I wasn't really in communities, when I just started this out, right? I didn't have any connections. So what I did was I literally just showed up in plain clothing with not even a pen light. So my very first fest concert, the fourth fest, I didn't have a pen light. So I was just waving around my towel. That's how I did it. But what mattered at the time was, am I enjoying this? Am I having fun? If the answer was yes, and the answer was yes, thankfully, then that's what mattered to me. And I think you should think of it the same way too. Now, of course, if your end goal is to get into these communities and have these interactions and ultimately get on a party bus and get wasted, yes, there are maybe steps that you have to take. Well, just like not just like any human interactions, right? But I think like how I mentioned, where people, even with language barrier, just simply sharing a merch and can break the ice and potentially start something. Everything starts from something very small, and you can start from something very minuscule that potentially grows into something bigger. If you're watching this and if you feel like you want to do something like this that's shown on my video, but you're kind of afraid that it's not going to go that way, chances are it may not go that way, because what I experienced will not necessarily happen to you 100%. But something different that I've never experienced may happen to you. Again, if your goal is to potentially get more involved, I feel like you should try to create and capture your own moments rather than trying to replicate what you have seen on my video. First of all, it's impossible to replicate because nothing happens just like that, right? And second, you are you, right? And I am me. So definitely think about what your comfort level is and build your way up to it rather than trying to go full on from the very first. In my case, it's a video, but in your case, it could be an experience of a life. So you can start pretty quiet, just get yourself in, just walk amongst the crowd and just kind of look around and enjoy the most important thing first, which is whatever is happening for hololive, whether it be a concert or a collab cafe or a convention. Then if you feel more comfortable next time you do it, then maybe you have a bit more courage to walk up to a person that seems like they're supporting the same Oshi as you. Then you can say, hey, what's up? Or just give them a little burst that you have. And that's where it could start. If that person turns out to be an ass, well, better luck next time. You just walk away and just continue enjoying. The point is that you shouldn't try to look for external approval for the sake of your enjoyment. As long as you're, polite and logical about how you enjoy things, I think you should just try to take it slow. Because, mind you, it took me way over 2 years to create a breaking dimensions moment, right? So don't feel like you have to go breaking dimensions from day one. It's just not possible. It's just not possible. Well,
I'd be impressed if that happened, but there you go.
Yeah, but that was certainly not my first video, was it? Right? So everything takes time to build up, and I think you should focus on what you enjoy first, which is hololive.
There is something I want to actually ask you as a surprise last question. In your first hololive video, in your Adventure to the Busan Annie Plus store collaboration, at 15 minutes 54, you ordered a Kiara drink and a Gargura cookie. 2 minutes later, you would give your professional opinion on said Kiara drink. And you described it as drinking candy orange, but in a good way. But you never gave us your opinion on the Gargura cookie. I'm still waiting.
Oh no. Well, I'll have to go back to that. It was really good. You know what? I'm trying to remember why I didn't say anything. It's probably because I had it at home, I think. I'm trying to remember. Maybe I didn't eat it at the spot because, it was a Gargura cookie, right? In a sense, it was a merch. So I think I was trying to keep it as long as possible. Eventually, I did eat it. And it was just a genuinely good sugar cookie. And that's why I didn't give an opinion right on the spot. Things were selling out so quick at the time. Everything was selling out. So even the cookie, I barely got it. So I was like, oh, this cookie is so precious. So I'm like, I can't eat this right now. I was holding on to it. It was a good cookie though. It was a good cookie. I think Gura would definitely approve for sure. A lot of things that I mentioned about content creation, like how do you feel about doing something like this, making videos and things?
I think that every content creator, as you say, they strange being on this other side of the interview.
Yeah, I know, right? I know.
Right, what the hell is this? I'm not used to this at all. No, but well, in terms of what I think about content creators, one thing I wanted to ask you about today was essentially why do you make the content that you make? And why is very topical, because I think it's the only thing that can keep you going through the tough times. You start with why rather than start with how or what, because how and what, that's easy. You can just copy what someone else does. But if you
will eventually find how to do it, right? So
yeah. But at the end of the day, it's kind of soul destroying if there's nothing more beyond that. And as strange as it sounds, we've talked about, money makes the world go around, essentially. But doing something explicitly for money in itself is also, well, at least in my opinion, not particularly fulfilling either. I mean, don't get me wrong, you need money to essentially sustain itself, and it also needs to be able to generate that money. But money should only be the tool that keeps you going rather than the thing that you're doing something for.
Right. You need a driving factor to why you're using that tool.
Exactly. And one of the concerns I have, I talk as if I'm some seasoned pro. I am basically I'm basically a nobody in all honesty. But one thing I always kind of worry about as this nobody who is looking in from the outside into any community online, especially in the world of YouTube, is, do content creators know what their why is? What are they doing this for? Dare I say, is perhaps maybe sometimes the depression or burnout that you find some content creators going through, is that truthfully because there isn't a why that sustains them anymore? And they're kind of lost in this unfortunate place whereby they're continuing to do what they're doing, but the passion's not really there. They're just doing it to just pay the bills now, which is fine. You can certainly do that to pay the bills, but now it's just become the new 9-to-5 grind. It's a very exceptional, different 9-to-5 grind, but it's still essentially that same soulless feeling of a 9-to-5 grind. And it's kind of I think a difficult place for a lot of content creators to really go through that, because I mean, especially for ones who are really big and have really made it. It's like, they're on top of the world. Everyone wants to be them. Everyone wants to hang out with them. Everyone wants to have what they have, because they have everything that everyone could ever want. And they are people suffering in silence. That inner crippling sense of depression and sense of existential dread of, what am I doing? Or what should I do next? I don't know. I'll keep doing this, but it's not making me happy. And it's really not a fun thing to think about, in that sense. Perhaps one thing I wanted to ask you is, why do you do what you do? Part of that is also me trying to see what would be a why that perhaps sustains myself and other people to keep going forward. I'm always curious to hear this kind of stuff, because everyone's why is kind of different. For someone, it could be a case of to do the thing that they are good at and the thing that makes sense for them. In fact, I would dare say, if I was to guess what a why would be for you, it's to share the joy of hololive with other people. It's to share that adventure as a way to say to anyone watching this is the hololive fan community. This is what we're about. And if you like it, you're welcome to join us. It's not a case of, will you be accepted or do you fit in with us? This is an open invitation. The question is, will we see you at the next one?
Which you will, for sure. The topic that you're mentioning is very important for content creators and also human beings in general. Be philosophical. But if we focus on content creation, I mean, you and I both, in the large scheme of things, we are still very novice, right? In the bigger YouTube scene. I think we both still have a long road ahead going forward. We probably will encounter things that we never imagined. But if we look at like larger content creators as examples, and as you said, the ones that are struggling with motivations or some challenges in life that they can't share, I think that's very real on any scale, right? So one thing that I came to learn is that even though I'm passionate about doing what I do, my life cannot be 100% just this, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm still a human being with responsibilities. I'm a son to a parent. I have to do good son things, clean or, help out my mother and father from time to time. If they're sick, I have to be by their side, or, I do freelance work. So, there could be some like job responsibilities that I have to be, So even though the passion could be real, there are real life challenges that you still have to tackle alongside of it. And I think that could be something that can discourage a person because there are examples where a person cannot continue doing it because that person has to take care of their family member, a sick family member. They just don't have time for this anymore, or they have to earn more money to support their family. Those kind of things, it's not the motivation that's the issue, it's just the real life challenges that's the issue, right? So I think there are cases like that. In terms of motivation, that's also a difficult one too, because at the end of the day, you have to support your own motivation. There are limits to what other people tell you what a motivation could be. You have to answer your own question. And that's why I'm continuing to seek the answer to my own question too. Why am I doing this? And I think the important thing is that I never stop asking this, because the answer will be different at different phases of my content creation life. It'll definitely evolve, but even if there isn't a set answer at the time of us speaking right now, I think it's still important for us to talk about it and continue asking it. And remember how I said my reason for starting was very simple, right? I liked hololive and content creation clicked. So two things combined, good. But if I dive into that answer a little bit deeper, I think I did that to myself on purpose, keeping it simple. What I mean by that is, how I said like nothing really clicked in my life to this degree, and I never really came to a solid result, solid conclusion to anything I do. And it was largely because I was overthinking things a lot in my life before I tried anything, right? If you're going to draw, you have to have a canvas in front of you and you have to lay your freaking pencil down on the canvas and start drawing, right? But I was a person, I still am a person who really overthinks things, so much so that I just lose a passion even before I really get to a solid conclusion. So when I looked into doing this content creation thing and hololive stuff, I looked at myself again and thought, am I going to repeat the same mistake, or am I just going to do it this time? So if I did the same as what I did previously in my life, where I'm like, okay, what is content creation? How do you become a YouTuber? Let's watch 100 tutorials about how to become a YouTuber. All right. How much do I need to start and buy Adobe Premiere? How much for a laptop? Like, what camera settings is most perfect for vlogging? You can talk about that every single day. It'll never end, right? And I thought, okay, I can do that. Or let's just freaking make a video and see where it goes. And that's how my first video came to be. I was at the point at the time where I was an even tinier streamer at the time while working. And I was like, just doing what I do. And then it just hit me. I'm like, okay, this is a good excuse for me to just say, you have a GoPro right there. Just grab it, go out there and record something, just make a video out of it. And like I said, that's why I kept everything simple on purpose. I deliberately didn't think about it too much, because if I start to think too much, I'll go down that death spiral again. Like so many spirals that I went to over and over again in my life. Don't get me wrong. It's very important to have a deep answer to what your motivation is to something that you do, right? In this case, content creation. But I also think it's equally important to keep things simple, right? So you don't go down the death spiral as many people may go down. And sometimes it's enough to just say, I like this and I like that. Double the fun. Let's go. And then all the pain that comes after, all the realizations that come after in terms of, oh shit, I didn't think about this. I didn't think that would be a challenge. You know that now only because you started it, right? I feel like, at least from my experience, if there's trouble with motivation, keep on thinking about it. But I think ultimately it comes down to, are you having fun with it? Can you continue on with having fun with it? And is it as simple as that? Or do you need more complex answers? If you're looking for even more complex answers beyond are you having fun, then maybe there are more things to sort out in life beyond content creation, right? Yeah. I simply put, like family matters, financial things, all these things are like real things, right? So maybe you need more time to sort that out first, and maybe it's okay to take a break to sort those out. But I think just step away for a minute and think what's on your table. Just look at it and then sort out the priorities, and just keeping it simple and definitely does help me for sure. I can't speak on behalf of everybody, but that's how I am continuing right now. And again, my answer will likely change in the future if we do this again in the future. But as far as what I'm doing here, just simple motivation and figuring stuff as I go. If you're a kind of person who is a overthinker, I think try the opposite. If you're a type of person who always have been risking like this with just simple thought process, then maybe for you, overthinking it from time to time may help, right? So just, think about that. Think about what works for you.
Bro, man, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. If people wanted to find you online, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube. Just search hwikky, HWIKKY, and it'll show up with blue profile picture that I hope you have it on somewhere. And you can also find me on Twitter/X at hwikkyofficial. I named it Hwikky Official, not because I want to sound important, but because the name Hwikky was already taken. So at Hwikky Official on Twitter, and just search Hwikky on YouTube. Those are the two places you can find me.
Who's taking Hwikky?
It's just a random person, not even related to hololive. It's been taken a long time ago, apparently. So it's not even like after I started doing this, it's just pure chance. Pure chance.
Oh, fair enough. At least we know it's definitely you because it's official.
Yeah, for sure.
Hwikky, thank you for today.
Also, thank you for watching too.